As a small company, it is not a question of if, it's a question of when you're going to be faced with an existential crisis to your business. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Zeischer, and this is the 24th in a series of small videos designed to help entrepreneurs succeed with their startups. So, with that, let us consider the first slide. First, let us come up with a definition of what a business crisis is. A business crisis is an unpredictable event with highly negative consequences for you, for your shareholders, and especially for the reputation of the organization. And we can divide crisis into three special categories. Number one is immediate, number two is emerging, and number three is sustained. An immediate crisis is one that came out of nowhere. You didn't know it was coming, and it took you by surprise. The other one is emerging. An emerging crisis is one that you can almost foresee coming. You have no way of stopping it, but you can see it coming. By far, the worst one is a sustained crisis. A sustained crisis is one in which no matter what you do, it doesn't seem to be capable, or you don't seem to be capable of controlling it or managing it. So that will be the third. Rather than giving you a series of things about what to do, I think that it would be much, much better if I were to give you what not to say. If you're being asked about the crisis, don't say no comment. That invites all kinds of problems. And don't say this crisis is worthy of our top priority. Of course, it is worthy of a top priority. That's why it's a crisis. Don't say we're committed to solving it. Of course, you're committed to solving it. Don't say the obvious. And don't say we are on track, unless you happen to have a very specific series of steps that you can show to people what you're doing. Nobody knows what your track is. So don't say we are on track. The other one is we didn't know it was coming. We didn't plan for it. Well, of course you didn't know it was coming. Of course you didn't plan for it. That's why it's a crisis. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a crisis. And by far, the best one, the worst one that you can say is it wasn't our fault. Because if it wasn't your fault, then whose fault was it? There's an old saying in business, and I think that it really is applicable here. And that is this: if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Let's take now a look at real crises. One would be force majeure. Force majeure is something that we are experiencing right now, and that is the COVID pandemic. Of course, nobody knew it was coming. So all kinds of companies, both small, medium, and large, found themselves in a crisis of one type or another one. The other one is technological. Let's say that you're in the healthcare business and you're conducting a clinical trial for a drug, a vaccine, an implantable medical device, and you encounter a clinical trial failure. That is a crisis. The other one that can happen to anybody, whether they happen to be in the healthcare field or any other field, and that is you lost your best customer. Another one, number four, will be a maleficent crisis, like the one that Johnson & Johnson found itself when they knew that Tylenol, somebody was tampering with the containers at the pharmacies, and they were putting a poison in them. That was a crisis, and one that really deserves our attention. If you happen to be in any field, as a matter of fact, if there are human victims as a result of whatever the crisis is, or if you have patients dying as a result of a clinical trial or something else. If you have human victims, make sure that you show three things: sympathy, understanding, and take responsibility for what is happening. Don't try to push it off because it's not going to work. You may remember that in the political field, as we have seen many, many times before, the cover-up is actually worse than the crime. So, how do you manage a crisis? I can divide it into response and strategy. Internally, this is what your response should be. Do as much fact-finding as you possibly can to understand what the crisis is all about. As you find the facts, try to do mitigation, try to do containment of whatever the crisis is, and certainly practice damage control. Now, for the outside of the company, this is now going to be strategy. Develop a narrative that you're going to pass along to all of your stakeholders. If there is going to be media engagement, make sure that you're ready for it. And certainly stakeholder engagement. And remember what a stakeholder is. A stakeholder is not just a shareholder. A stakeholder is a shareholder. It would be employees. It would be your customers. It would be your suppliers. And your whole strategy should be focused on rebuilding trust in you and in your company. So the most important advice is shown at the bottom of the slide. And on this last slide, this is the most important advice I can give you. Make sure that you keep the crisis small because you need to protect your reputation. And the reason why you need to protect your reputation is that as a startup and as a small company, no matter what you do, your biggest asset is your reputation. Thank you very much. If you go to www.zeicherinstitute.com, you will see our webpage. We have 10 easy to follow recorded lectures complemented by hundreds of slides. If you purchase the online course, you will receive a complimentary copy of the complete transcript as a PDF. So you don't have to start writing anything. Everything about the course will be at your fingertips, thus allowing you to make a copy of the transcript. And in the website, you will find the entire lecture number 1 as a free gift, which is about 30 minutes in duration. So please do that, and I wish you the best of luck as an entrepreneur.